we thought it'd be important for us just to, before we got our day started too far here on the West Coast, to just hop on and offer some quick reflections from last night. Obviously, if you have any pride, any sense of ownership of this country, what we saw last night was a terrible display of leadership, certainly by the president, and watching Vice President Biden hang on to try and make his way through that debate was a painful thing to watch, wasn't it, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, it was ridiculous. It was a travesty. It was a parody of anything that has any semblance of normalcy. The vileness of this president, and obviously this isn't anything that is new to us, but the vileness of this president was on for display, not just for the country, but for the world. His explicit racism, his bullying personality, the disgusting way in which he carried himself is, again, it's nothing new, but I guess we all just got a chance to see it for what it was. And that's not news, but I think, hearing him say, using, the most powerful bully pulpit that we have in this country, and the way in which he created safety for the worst that we have in our society, was both as a Black person frightening and yet very revealing for us to really recognize, if you haven't got the memo already, we are living in some very perilous times.
Yeah, and so part of what we thought, we don't plan to be on here very long, but we were talking and we just thought it'd be important to pull out a few remarks. We don't plan at this point. We don't have a toolkit pulled together. We don't have any nice glossy things. These are just some of our quick recommendations, but they're very serious, and we think we need to put a few things on the radar. 3 particular audiences that we think you need to be thinking about in these last 34 days: police, white evangelicals, and progressive elected officials. All right. And so we just going to kind of flow a little bit off the top of our head based off of what we heard last night. It is very clear to us that Donald Trump, even with the refusal to renounce white supremacists, but his explicit call out to the Proud Boys makes us feel like that there needs to be some specific responses that we all need to call out and ask these individuals, these groups of individuals, to put forth some kind of public response to the remarks that Donald Trump made. Why? Because if we don't publicly put them on notice, they are no better than Donald Trump, who refused to renounce white supremacy and the Proud Boys. Now, there are many audiences that we can speak to today, but we thought it'd be important at the very least to start the conversation, and we're free to hand it off to you all to keep going forward and add thou to it, as the scripture says. But we think 3 audiences: the police, white evangelicals, and progressive elected officials. So let's start with the police. Ben, what say you to President Trump's inability to denounce white supremacy and to denounce the Proud Boys, while he bragged the whole time of his support of law enforcement? He says, I have the exclusive support of law enforcement all across this country. He told Joe Biden, you don't have any law enforcement support. So what does that tell us? That President Trump has the support of law enforcement across this country, and he refused to renounce white supremacists like the Proud Boys. Help us unpack that dichotomy, and what is the call to action specifically for us to make to law enforcement over the next 34 days?
So listen, we've been saying over the last several months, since the Breonna Taylor, George Floyd murders, the Ahmaud Arbery murders, the Rayshard Brooks murder in Atlanta, we have been calling in our heat ecosystem for months. And my voice is gone because I was out at the state capitol yesterday lifting up our voice talking about how we need to end racist policing and scale up community systems that enable us to be safe. So y'all gonna have to listen to me. I sound like Doc Rivers a little bit, but let me say this. We have been saying for months that one of the things we were calling on all of our elected officials and our law enforcement officials is for them to make the public pledge to fire all racist cops and to speak out and to rid their departments and cities with a zero tolerance policy for white supremacy and racism. What we saw last night was the President of the United States say that he has the support of law enforcement agencies across this country. So they are right now in a pickle, if you want to call it that they are supporting a president who has come out and refused to denounce white supremacy. Not only did he refuse to denounce it, but he invited the Proud Boys, white supremacist, Islamophobic, anti-Semitic, misogynistic organization to stand by. We should be calling on your police chiefs, on your elected officials to make a response to the president of this country.
Right.
Does your local police department support President Trump's claims that your agency is in support of him? We should require our police departments and our police officer associations to go on record. Does your organization support President Donald Trump? Yes or no? No equivocations. It is time for us to draw the line in the sand. Either you are with the Klansman in chief or you are going to make a commitment to go a different way. So over the next 30 days, and I would even push us the next 7 days, we need to go the next 7 days. Today is Monday. Today is Wednesday. Before the next presidential debate, right, call on your local law enforcement agencies and police officer associations to say whether they are in support of President Donald Trump's claims that their organization support him or whether they will denounce the President of the United States support, considering he has refused to denounce white supremacy. That's one step. And how do you do that? You and we can call our local police departments. We are going to be sending out something. If you text number text HEAT to 40649, we are going to be sending out later on today or by tomorrow a way for you to do it right off of your phone, to make a call into your local police department, make a call into your mayor, and ask them to make a public pledge denouncing the white supremacist commitment of President Donald Trump. So you can follow the technology if you're on our list. If you're not on our list, text HEAT to 40649 so that all of us need to be calling our police chiefs and our police officer associations and get them on the record.
Now, text HEAT to 40469. Is that correct?
No, 40649. Text HEAT
40649. Now, let's just stay here just for a moment, because one of the greatest challenges we have to people waking up to the urgency of this moment is you think that people like us, clergy like us, Black Lives Matter folks like us, organizers and activists, that we are sensationalists, that we are seeking headlines, we're ambulance chasers, we're sounding an alarm. President Trump very easily disqualified his credibility on anything related to public safety by appealing to the Proud Boys. It is a white supremacist hate group. It is a violent group. And President Trump was not willing to denounce them. Matter of fact, he told them to stand by. To stand by. Stand by for what? Now, why is this related to policing? We have all kinds of reports from the FBI that have been saying since 2006 that white supremacists and neo-Nazis have infiltrated law enforcement agencies all across the country. I know that sounds like a radical, crazy claim, but this has been chronicled. You can Google it. It is very well documented. And so I want you to think about this. President Trump last night bragged about the police department supporting him, and then he told the Proud Boys to stand by. No police department worth their weight in gold can be silent in this moment. Force them to go on record. Ask them about the white supremacists that label themselves as ghost skins. Ghost skins. That is their nickname within their movement of infiltrating law enforcement. Google it. I promise you, it is there. Intercept. William and Mary College has a whole research project on this. You need to be mindful that in your city, you have to demand that your police department goes on the record and says that they do not support Donald Trump's public safety vision, his call out to the Proud Boys, neo-Nazis, white supremacists. You must make your police department go on the record about this. Do not equivocate. Do not swallow your tongue. Do not believe that this is a sensationalist slip up. I've been listening to Trump's talking heads come out talking about he was baited into the question. You can't be baited into something unless you are attracted to it. Only fish eat worms when a hook is on it because they like the worm. White supremacy was the worm on the hook, and he bit it hook, line, and sinker because it's in his heart. And police departments have to distinguish themselves. We can talk about the validity of policing all day long till the cows come home. But in this moment, draw a bright red line, and you make your police chief and your police department and your police officers association go on the record in the next 7 days and say, we do not support the Proud Boys, white supremacists, and we are going to look inside our departments over the next 30 days and make sure no one in our department is affiliated with these type of white supremacists and hate group affiliations.
And listen, if your police department tells you that they cannot make a statement, I want you to challenge them that they have had no problems making statements against anti-fascist resistors. They have had no problem making statements against so-called rioters and so-called thugs, etc. Why is it that they have a problem making a statement denouncing the Proud Boys and denouncing what this president has said? He has said that they have supported him, and the Fraternal Order of Police in New York, they have endorsed him. And several other fraternal orders of police across this country have endorsed him. Now it is time for us, like we've said with this police conversation, 18,000 departments across the country. Call on your local police department, your local sheriff, your local police officers association to make a public pledge denouncing President Trump's claims of their support and his refusal to denounce white supremacy and the Proud Boys. These are the same individuals, for those who are waking up post George Floyd. These are the same individuals. It was the Proud Boys that beat black people in Charlottesville, that ran over the white sister Heather with a vehicle. These are the individuals that surrounded a church in Charlottesville where many of our faith leader friends and colleagues were gathered praying, and they surrounded the church with tiki torches. This is who the President of the United States told to stand by. And I got to finish the line, Mike, that he said, stand by because somebody has to deal with Antifa and the folks on the left. It was a threat. It was not misspeaking. It was an invitation of white supremacist violence on people who do not agree with them. This must be the line we draw in the sand.
So this is important. This is important. Your police departments are still being paid by taxpayers. Do not abdicate our responsibility to hold them accountable, make them go on the record. We can talk about all the other post-police strategies as we go along and after the election, but until we get an alternative that is funded by the tax base, our tax dollars, they are the ones that fund policing. The police departments are ours to hold accountable and ours to direct. Do not kowtow, do not be retreating on this demand to make sure they go public. The second audience, white evangelicals.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what else you need to hear. I don't know what else you want to hear. But I want you to know, white evangelicals, that people across the spectrum of, I'm just going to talk about black churches for right now, because I don't want to talk about nobody else. We are looking at your the pretzel that you are bending yourself into to not acknowledge the overt racism and white supremacy of this candidate. All right. Now, I want to ask white evangelicals, no matter who you vote for. Now, I hope you don't vote for Donald Trump, but it seems at this point you all are in the sink for him. All right. So I don't know if you're gonna change your mind. I want to ask white evangelicals, what do you plan to do? What do you plan to do to ensure that white supremacists do not target, do not harm, do not put in their crosshairs people from our black churches, our black institutions, folks who are explicitly out here, obviously not supporting Donald Trump? What are you prepared to do, white evangelicals, to make sure that you are not caught flat-footed by the calling out of white supremacists and Donald Trump loyalists to upset and disrupt the country with violence if he loses? I can guarantee you that none of the folk in the black church are out here talking about going to find anybody to harm them if Donald Trump wins. What are you willing to do, white evangelicals? You who claim to love Jesus, you who worship Jesus, you just did a nice big prayer event out on the Washington Monument. What do you plan to do? What is your plan? What is your public plan to denounce white supremacists? I have had on my page just in the last day, people coming on my page telling me that my call out to denounce white supremacy is a whataboutism. Well, are you going to denounce Black Lives Matter? Are you going? No, this is not a question about Black Lives Matter. This is a question about white supremacists. White evangelicals, what do you plan to do? The president has put white supremacists on call. Some of these individuals appear to attend your churches. They are comfortable with you. They are gun enthusiasts. They believe their country is under attack. White evangelical pastors, what are you going to do in the next 30 days to make sure that if violence, racialized violence breaks out across this country, will you stand up and put your body on the line? So black people and Jewish people and immigrant and Muslim loved ones in this country do not have to suffer violence because of the members of your church or your family members are so deceived and driven by fear and conspiracy theories that they believe their country is being overran by wicked Marxists and all of these blood libels that many of you are literally falling for. So we want to call out to white evangelicals, and we want to ask you, what are you prepared to do? I don't know what you should do, but I tell you this much: if you claim to be our brothers and sisters in Christ, you must get your people in line. Do not leave it up to us to try and figure out why members of your church will show up at the polls in black neighborhoods at Donald Trump's encouragement to intimidate black voters. What are you willing to do? What are you going to do to make your people stand down and not come to black communities and harass our folks while they have to already stand in line in the midst of COVID and cast a ballot because this president has trivialized and diminished the confidence of mail-in ballots and other forms of more safe electoral options? I'm asking white evangelicals, what are you willing to do? And I want every black pastor,
yes,
every black musician, every black worship leader, you all who still fellowship with these folks, because I don't fool with them right now because I just don't know. I don't know what they're talking about. So I'm not going to be a prop in a church that refuses to stand up and denounce white supremacy, denounce this president who is a peddler of white supremacist theories. So I'm asking you, white evangelicals, what are you prepared to do, Ben?
And listen, right alongside that, let me start where you left off and then finish where you started. I want to say to our Black pastors and faith leaders, because we having this conversation, we know there's more religious and faith traditions, but this is a conversation to Black faith leaders. Listen to what Mike was just saying. It right now is not the time for us to be trying to make excuses for the failure of our so-called white counterparts who refuse to use the kind of strong critique about the explicit white supremacy that is threatening our relatives, the people in our community, your family. If these churches are going to try to use the scriptures as an out, if they're going to try to use the abortion wedge issue as an out to sign off on racism and white supremacy, it is time for us to recognize that we need to break fellowship. Break fellowship, because they have already broke it with you.
That's right.
The scriptures tell us there is a time to embrace and there is a time to refrain from embracing.
That's right.
And when you have people who will gather and sing "How Great Are You, Lord" on the Capitol in DC, and then turn around and be silent in the face of explicit white supremacy threatening our churches, threatening our people, you cannot stand by and say, well, we are one under Christ. No, we are not. They have chosen, those who refuse to stand against white supremacy have chosen to align themselves with the devil, period. They have aligned themselves with the devil. And you should not say you follow Jesus if you won't say what Jesus said. He said, your father is the devil. And this is what you need to tell him.
And he's the father of all lies. And like I say, I'm not calling Donald Trump the father of all lies, but he's definitely related to that joker. He must be his cousin. He must be his uncle, because he is a lying wonder, and you ought to reject him.
And let me say this to white evangelicals. No more can you say you love Black people, you love brown people, you love immigrants, and then try to be casual in your rhetoric to critique what is happening. I don't want to hear it. So all of the white folks who we have known each other for 20 years, and you say, Ben, I'm praying for you. We love you. You know, we're supporting you. If you're going to be quiet, and because you don't want to disrupt the funding for your church planning, you don't want to disrupt the denomination, to hell with the denomination. If you are going to say you love us and be silent in the face of this kind of threat, then you have no love. And like Dr. King said, I would prefer the explicit racism of the white citizens counselor or the KKK over the white moderate who tells us that we are too aggressive in our approach. White evangelicals, I'm telling you right now, if you are not going to stand up in this moment with more than love, I don't want to hear about no love. I want to hear about no prayers. You need to get on your social media, be explicit with the people you know, and tell them that this man is a threat to the country, to Black people, to brown people, and that you denounce him, that your church denounces him, and that you will do everything you can to stand against white evangelicals. That must be the litmus test. Black folks, Black pastors, if your white evangelical colleagues will not explicitly denounce this president and his racism and the Proud Boys, we should break fellowship.
And I want to tell you, Black pastors, particularly male preachers, who love to be close to white evangelicals, you want to be at their conferences, you want to be on their stages, you want to be featured next to them. You must ask yourself, what are you validating in this moment? All right. They should not have you come to their conference to explain white supremacy. They should, as a leader, be able to talk to their own people and help them understand the diabolical nature of white supremacy, because they are benefiting from it.
Yes.
Putting a black person, a Latino person, an Asian person in a hot seat in front of a bunch of white Christians to try to convince them about something that you know is real is a derelict of your duty. And so it is important for you, white evangelical, white pastor of evangelical churches, these conferences. I have myself pulled out of every evangelical conference that has invited me. I told them I can't do it. I'm not an emotional place, because if I get up to speak, what I'm gonna say, I know folk ain't gonna hear me. So it don't even matter for me to prepare. It's up to you all. Now, CCDA, Exponential, what's that? Mosaic, Stadia, the Q series, all these white evangelical ran and dominated conferences. You must make these folks so uncomfortable between now and the election that they cannot sit comfortably in the conference without at least declaring, I will not continue to support this kind of leadership. I will disciple my people away from racism. I will make sure that my members, listen to me, none of my members will be encouraged to go to a black community's polling place and stand out there with your Jesus shirts on, your flags, talking about you're here to observe an election. You never showed up before.
Thank you.
You didn't show up before in black neighborhoods where we had to stand outside for 3, 4, 5, 12 hours to make sure we could vote and the election is secure. So don't show up now and don't tell your people to do it. You must have some integrity. You must have some courage. You must have some fortitude to stand up in front of your people. You got 4 Sundays to get some revelation from God to preach to your people in such a way where they will not leave your service and show up to a black neighborhood talking about, I'm here to make sure that the polling place is secure. We don't need you doing that.
No.
So you must preach to them that they cannot do it, because your president, who you have supported at 80-something%, you talk about we're supporting him because of the abortion judges. You talk about we're supporting him because it's transgender rights. What does that have to do with showing up to a black neighborhood polling place to terrify black people, to dissuade black people from voting? You, white evangelical pastor, must stand up in response to this wickedness we saw yesterday and tell your people, stay out of the black community on voting day.
We should be calling out everybody from Rick Warren and Saddleback to Tim Keller, that's in New York, even locally, where I live in the Bay Area, transforming the Bay for Christ. Y'all folks that's in the Bay Area, all of you organizations, it is time for you to say something about what's happening. If you're not, and black folks, brown folks, get your strength. Our ancestors have given us strength to say it like it is. Teen Challenge, say it like it is to these organizations. They must make public pledges to denounce this. It is time for us. I don't know what else we will be waiting for, Mike. Are y'all going to wait for folks to come through your church, lock up your people, beat folks with sticks and guns, call on these people to denounce it? If they won't, then you break fellowship.
Third thing, and then we're gonna get out of y'all's hair for today. Progressive elected officials. Now, at least since Ferguson, I know that we have been talking to many of you about white supremacy. We've been talking to you about the complicity of the state in state violence. Many of you have felt like our language has been too harsh. It has been too off-putting. It is too repellent. It is too offensive. All white people are not like this. All police are not like this. Progressive elected officials, it is your responsibility to devise a safety plan for black and brown communities over the next 30 days to ensure we are secured
Yes.
from the potential of racialized violence. You cannot wait until the violence starts to start talking about a plan. So, what can you do? You should deny every permit for a rally from any white supremacist organization. Right. Proud Boys, neo-Nazis, the Ku Klux Klan, the Boogaloo Boys. You are to say, no, you don't get to a permit in my city. Mm-hmm. You need to ensure that your police departments have a strategy and a plan to secure houses of worship that have been targeted, that are being targeted, Jewish mosques, Jewish temples and synagogues, mosques and black churches, Sikh temples as well. You must, as a leader in your city, get a plan together in advance. It's got to be in advance.
That's right.
You cannot wait. You cannot wait. Too many of you progressive elected officials are so flat-footed when it comes to this racialized violence. You think that this is not real. I saw people on the TV today talking about, oh, we're not worried about the transfer of power. We're not worried about Donald Trump is an arsonist. You're right. All that is right. But we have people in this country, some estimate about 25%, who are 100% in the tank for this foolishness. That is a lot of people. That's a lot of people.
That's 70 to 80 million people.
That you don't feel like you need to develop a plan in advance. Our tax dollars demand that you provide a plan of safety to make sure that we are not left to our own to defend ourselves against people who are being encouraged on national TV on the world stage to respond to a loss that appears to be pending, given what all of the polls and things are saying. We demand progressive elected officials all across this country, and you ought to as well. You ought to call your mayor. You ought to call your county supervisor. You ought to call your governor. Everybody who is the executive leader of your city, your county, and your state, ask them, what is your plan to ensure that on election day and the days after, that Black and brown people, our institutions, some of our most important Black Lives Matter leaders, we got young people, Black women, Black queer folks out here right now being threatened every single day. Got Muslim leaders being threatened every single day. What is your plan to protect folk? What is your plan? You worried about Pookie. You got a whole strategy to try to stop the violence in the neighborhoods. And meanwhile, you got folk out here who are literally threatening folks. They're tweeting and texting on our Facebook pages. They are threatening folks' lives in real time. What is your plan? You have to develop a plan. It cannot be up to us as the citizens to protect ourselves from people who are bold enough to put this stuff out here on social media, following the leadership of this president. You must have a plan. I'm telling, we are calling on all of you elected officials. Do not be caught flat-footed, and we compel every one of you pastors who are listening to this, call your elected official today and demand a plan. Do not act like this is not an imminent threat. You have a responsibility to be proactive. God has given us warnings. You say you are a visionary. You say you hear from God. Well, hear this.
Yes.
Hear this. It is better for you to have a plan. It is better for you to go on record. It is better for you to make sure your voice is heard publicly on this matter. And what kind of cowardice are we arrested by? That we can speak more vigorously to young people out here protesting than we will to white vigilantes and elected officials who are afraid to speak, and law enforcement who have no interest to speak. You more turned up about Black Lives Matter, the organization, than you are about these individuals who are literally every day out here threatening our children and our families' lives. Come on, y'all.
Come on. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And so the steps, we are going to be hitting you all up via the text message. We're going to hit you up through email. If you haven't already, text the word HEAT to 40649. We're going to work with the team around the clock so that we can get you connected through this. When you get a message on your phone, you're going to need to register for the campaign. What then that is going to enable you to do is just with one click, it'll get you to your mayor. With one click, it'll get you to your police chief. The app will call the number on your phone. We're going to give you some sample messages of what you need to talk to them about and ask them for. This is supposed to be a democracy, not an autocracy. And so while we all got complaints around what is happening, let us not get it twisted. You got people that you love, and we talk to relatives all the time from around the country who scoff at the arrogance of those of us in America that believe this country has the inability to slide off the hill of democracy into civil war and chaos. There are 392 million guns in this country, only 1 million of them registered, and the majority of those are held by these white militias, Proud Boys, and folks in the white community. So we need to be putting our pressure on the systems that we have paid for, imperfect as they are. We need to use our voice, put pressure on these folks. So as we send you these text messages, text HEAT to 40649, spread this message. You are going to have to be the resistance to this kind of hatred. We're going to give you the invitation. We're going to throw up the softball. You got to hit it.
So we just wanted to come on and just give you these 3 quick takes, hot takes. They're hot takes, admittedly. Hot takes. We are definitely disturbed by lots of what we heard, but we felt like at the very least we needed to speak and put these 3 audiences on notice: police chiefs, police officer associations, and police departments. You must denounce what you heard from the president yesterday. I know many of you already endorsed him. You must denounce what he said. You must say that you do not support militias and Proud Boys and white supremacists coming into the city to work with you to preserve public safety. You must denounce it. That's the call to you all. You must denounce it. Period. That white evangelicals, you must stand up on your church, in your churches over the next several weeks, and you must preach and teach your people away from the racism and white supremacy we've heard. You must compel your people not to show up in black neighborhoods at the polling places, talking about they're there for election security. And you must be prepared if racialized violence breaks out in your city, in your suburb. You must show up with your people and protect black lives, protect immigrant lives, protect Muslim and Jewish lives. If racialized violence breaks out and white evangelicals support this president, you must come out and support black folks, immigrant folks, non-white folk who do not have the ability to protect themselves from this violence. And then the third group, progressive elected officials, you must develop a plan. We hope as pastors and faith leaders and organizers in our network start to call you, do not put them in the voicemail. Do not put them in the kiddie playpen with some lower level folks. You need to start developing a plan that will ensure that on election day and thereafter, we do not have racialized violence visiting our cities without your leadership putting a preemptive plan in place. We think those are 3 things that folks can do. And let me also invite many of you every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We have trainings that are happening at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We are going to add a prayer element to those trainings. So on the front end, you get some trainings, and for throughout the training, we're going to add some prayer. Brittany Packnett reached out to us this morning asking, are there prayer services happening? So we're going to start doing some virtual prayer services as a part of our trainings. The Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference, one of our great partners, they have a morning weekly prayer call. I believe it's at 6 a.m. in the morning. Go to the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference. For 30 minutes, you'll get prayer. You'll get some great inspirational singing and a quick reflection. If you are out there and you feel like you need some daily prophetic prayer and support, go there, particularly our activist loved ones who aren't a part of a church, because you don't feel like your church is being responsive, but you know right now you need some spiritual nourishment, the Sam Do It Proctor Conference is a great place to go. And then in the evenings, Dr. Barbara Williams Skinner and a whole host of folks are doing daily prayer calls, I believe at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So we got prayer in the morning. We got prayer in the evening. We got trainings every day. So plug in, y'all. And I know there's many other people doing things, so I'm not going to, suggest these are the only things that are happening. But I know people are asking for spiritual support. And so know that we have a mountain, an army of people who are doing that. And if you want to start some yourself and you want to promote them, let us know. We'll get them out there. But we all should be praying, using our spiritual traditions to help us get through this very difficult season. Do not be given over to despair. It's time for us to plan, and it's time for us to act. It's time for us to pray. It's time for us to do what we can to keep ourselves mentally, spiritually, emotionally well. Final word, Pastor Ben.
Hey, two more things. We also got to make sure as you're praying, as you're engaging in the training, the census date has been extended to August 5th. If you have not already filled out the census, this moment is showing how incredibly important it is to make sure that we get counted. So make sure you go to just Google the census. I can't think of the URL. I think it's my2020census.gov. Yeah. Go ahead and look that up. Make sure you fill out the census. And if you're in California, I want you to go to faithvotesca.org, faithvotesca.org. Download the voter guide so you can figure out how to make sure you vote for a racial justice platform. We love y'all. Listen, this is the real moment. We knew we were coming here. Let our faith and our values and our love for one another, may it be what guides us.
God bless y'all. Stay in touch with us. Let us know how we can be a blessing to you. Stay strong, stay safe. We love you. Peace.